Hi there. Here we go. John Gums, live. In fact, I'm not going to need the headphones. I took those off earlier. But we're here, Dakota Grappler Live. John Gums with Ray Ringstmeyer of Hot Springs. We're going to talk a little wrestling tonight. This is our 13th episode. Going to try to have one next week while I'm at the state wrestling tournament in Fargo. North Dakota has their state wrestling tournament coming up this week, so decided to move a show up a night, talk a lot of South Dakota wrestling because they're going into their regions, and it's kind of the big time part of the year. So we're going to talk just what's happening out there and talk about the future of wrestling come this spring. So first of all, I want Ray to introduce himself again, and then I'll have a bunch of questions. So Ray, I'll let you get.
I got a little help with me here.
That works. You can introduce her too. It sounds like your daughter. Is that what that is?
That's she's gone now.
Okay. Now introduce yourself and tell us a little bit on what you're looking forward to. How many guys you're taking into regions? If you have all your weights full and all that stuff.
Ray Ringstmeyer, Hot Springs, Region 4B. We'll have 13 wrestlers. We're hoping to have a full lineup this year, but we just didn't get heavyweight filled. We filled it for some duels, moved some weights around, but for tournaments, we'll keep it pretty straight up and give all our individuals that are varsity guys their best opportunity to get there, and we'll see what happens. We ran into the injury bug a little bit halfway through the season, and then we also lost a guy at the end of the season here, but we'll leave that open to guesses and let everyone check in on Saturday and see who those guys were. But, the guys have been working hard. We're pretty young in the lower weights. Our first 4 weights are pretty heavy with 8th graders. So that's, 103, 13, 20, and 26 all being 8th graders. That's a tough way to start out a tournament or a duel, either one, and it makes it kind of hard. But they're probably one of our best competitors too. They get out there and they wrestle hard and they do a good job. But in our middleweights, that's where we got to kind of step it up a little bit. That's where some of the injuries hit us partway through January, and that's where they gotta get back on track and get to what they were doing when they were healthy.
Okay. Hey, Mr. Lewis, nice joining us. We just started up a couple minutes early. Wasn't sure when you might join, so we decided to get going. So
no problem. Just got back from parent-teacher conferences.
Got to do your duties, I guess.
Did you get yelled at?
No, there were 4 of my girls, so they were pretty easy.
Yeah, you did. That's pretty good. Especially now, it really is not good if they're yelling at you because of your daughters.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Okay. No, I want to talk about your health of your team there down in Hot Springs. How was the health for your conference tournament? I heard that there was some sickness going around and some teams weren't all the way full.
Yeah.
And, good performance out of Lead Deadwood and all those.
Yeah, Lead, Spearfish, we thought we had a shot at it, and then we had one of our key wrestlers go down last week, and I don't want to know how many kids wrestled on that mat sick on Saturday. There's a lot of illness going around, and hopefully all those individuals get well for the regional coming up. But it was actually a pretty good tournament. The quality is coming up. It was a good team race. There was some excitement. We had a pretty good crowd despite the weather and everything. We had a 2-hour late start, and that kind of helped people get there a little bit easier. We had a full gym, and most of the weight classes were exciting to watch, and the finals didn't really disappoint. There were some good matches, and we won some big matches. Lead won some, all the teams came through and got some pretty good matches, and we'll come up with some pretty big wins going into regional. So I think it was a success. I think it's something we can definitely build on. There's some talk of moving it earlier into the season so that it's not the week right before regionals. So we can wrestle that conference tournament with a little bit closer to full strength teams instead of nursing and trying to heal up injuries and illness going into regionals. So we'll see where that ends up, what the ADs decide to do for us or do to us, however you want to look at it.
Sure. Now, are the conference tournaments, what's kind of interesting is South Dakota's got pride in their conference tournaments. It's bigger than North Dakota doesn't even have them anymore. But tell me a little bit about, some of the history of your conference down there.
You used to be a duel. You used to decide the conference title by a duel series. but it got to the point where, year after year, there was only 3 or 4 teams in the race because so many teams couldn't field a full duel lineup. So some of those duels got to be kind of ridiculous, 10, 15-minute duels because of the forfeits. And then the all conference team was done kind of like a seeding meeting format where we all came together at the end of the year and put our guys up on the board and who beat who and everything else. And a lot of those times those came down to votes. Well, we decided it makes sense just to have a conference tournament at the end of the year, and your conference placers where you're all conference, and you have a conference champion individually and a conference champion team decided by that. There's still some pride in the conference duels. They just don't, play the importance towards the conference title like the individual tournament does. But it brought, like I said, it brought a lot of excitement to the gym on Saturday. The atmosphere was there. It was really exciting.
Mm-hmm. Well, just bringing up the thing about duels, if you had to give a percentage, what are the chances that South Dakota might get the duel back? I know last year got a little closer. Every year he's kind of inching that way. What do you think about getting those duels back for South Dakota?
I think they keep tweaking it. There's a pretty good chance. Percentage-wise, I don't know if I could give that to you exactly. But last year, you're right, they were close. There were just a few things that didn't quite make sense. So I think they're coming very close. I think that they keep putting some ideas out on the table and discussing things. I think there's a good chance that we'll get it. Whether or not the Activity Association listens to us again, after a couple tries of it being shot down, who knows?
Okay. Well, let's introduce Sean over on the other side. Got Pierce head coach going over there. How's it going, and how is the health of your team right now?
Our health is finally getting to where it needs to be. We kind of went through a spell where we had a little bit of sickness and kind of a lot of injury, and then we actually had a kid with an impetigo, pretty bad skin infections. So, we're kind of getting everybody back and healthy all at the right time, right before our regional tournament, and we had pretty much everybody back in our last duel. So, we can't complain. Our kids are pretty fresh and pretty ready to go for the rest of the season.
Well, that's pretty good. I was watching some of your scores, and I noticed you guys your duels early in the season. You didn't have it all complete, but I was going back to, I'm thinking of Watertown, and then going to what you dueled later in the season. I saw some big changes in your scores. Attribute to just maturity of your team, or what do you think is?
With a few kids, right away we had some injuries right away that prevented probably 3 kids from wrestling in our lineup at Watertown duels, and so we knew right away that that duel tournament was going to be tough for us, but we went in there and and did what we could, and then as we started moving throughout the year, it was about Christmas time. We got 2 of those guys back, and then unfortunately we lost another one, but we had a pretty good JV guy step in, and it seemed like really the later part of January, we started getting all of our guys back in our lineup, back healthy, and then we kind of took a little down spell again, and it seems like that, right now we've got everybody back firing on all cylinders, and our last duel was with us and everybody in it. So I think that was the best look at what our team is capable of.
Right. And I always wanted to think of your team being so young. You've got them spread out all over kind of this year. Got some senior leadership, and tell me a little bit of where some of those younger guys, they've been kind of moving up the ranks, and you guys see this and stuff like that as I watch that. Tell me a little bit about that too on your team, some of the younger guys.
Yeah, our younger guys, we got an 8th grader wrestling 106 for us, and Hayden Schaefer. He's done a really good job all year being an 8th grader and learning, and he's kind of went through a few ups and a few downs as well, but he's done a lot of winning for us, and he's done a lot of pinning. He's the guy who scores a lot of bonus points for us. Otherwise, then you move up, and at 113 we got a sophomore, Jace Bench Brescher, at a phenomenal rapid tournament, wrestling real well, and then he's been kind of battling. He's been sick on and off all throughout the year, and so he's again another guy who's had a bunch of quality wins for us. When Lincoln Turman was out for us, we actually had a freshman, Daniel Tafoya, step in, and I don't even know how to describe the guy. I thought he was just a, a fairly average JV kid, and he turned out, and he placed at a few different tournaments. He placed in Brookings and placed in Yankton, beat a lot of, staple varsity guys and wrestled really close with a bunch of, other state qualifiers and that. And so I was definitely impressed with him. Otherwise, Jack Van Kam at 126, he's a sophomore for us. Done a really good job all year long. Started finally diversifying his offense, which is where he struggled earlier in the year. Sophomore at 138, and Cade Hinkle, guy who's really come on pretty strong as of late. And then probably one of our biggest staples, a guy who's tough to say he's, only a freshman, but he's been in our lineup for the last 3 years at 170 is McGuire Raskey.
He's just a freshman.
He's just a freshman. So, I mean, he keeps learning and keeps getting better, and he doesn't typically make the same mistakes twice. So, a kid who he's been soaking it up and learning, and he probably doesn't need to be at 170. He probably could be a 60-pounder, but I mean, he's done what the team needs him, and so he's up at 170. Then we got a freshman at 220, Gunnar Gehring. Gage Gehring's his brother down at 95, and so he's just kind of getting back into wrestling. He took a couple years off, but we can't have big guys like that walking around our school at 6'4", 220, and a freshman, and not be in our wrestling program.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. When I was looking up and down your lineup, I saw so much. See, I consider sophomores still young. I don't know if other people do. Maybe in a Class B school, sophomores are pretty old sometimes on the varsity. But I see on the Class A teams, and you start seeing those loaded juniors and seniors as those are the teams you fear. But you guys just keep loading them up and lining them through. And I look close, and I'm going, man, you guys seem so much older. I thought coming into the season. Now you look very young. I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but that's what I was thinking. It just means other people have to fear you for many more years. Yeah,
we'll see about that. I mean, yeah, our senior class is definitely a class that's been around for a long time, and I'm sure one that some people are ready for us to get rid of.
Yeah, well, when I was looking at the rankings, you guys are right there in the mix, with having that many points. If you just divided out the points, but I don't want to get into that. What is some of your strategy in Pierre to keep those seniors motivated? And the younger ones motivated to keep pushing every day?
We really try to focus on just getting all 14 of them to the state tournament, and that's kind of our focus from the beginning. We have them set goals, and we go through their goals with each and every single one of them. But they do a good job, because they know if we want to achieve one of those goals of getting all 14 of them to the state tournament, that they've got to hold not only themselves but everybody else around them accountable. And so I've really seen as of late, our seniors have done a really good job of not only taking care of their own business, but a lot of them have really started to kind of teach and mentor a few other kids that are underneath them, whether that be a freshman or a sophomore, and, really kind of teaching them the technique as they go. So coaches aren't necessarily stopping and working with groups. It's, they're taking it upon themselves when they're drilling with their partner and things to stop and explain, what's going on. So, I think, of our things that our senior class has done as the last 2 weeks, that's definitely been the most awesome thing to see.
Well, I tell you what, that senior leadership is so key to success of a team. Very true. Quick question about your region. Now, I've always deemed that as probably, I always thought that maybe out at Region 4, you go out to Rapid City, it used to be a bear, but I look at your region, and I don't know who could qualify 14, but yeah. Tell me a little bit about your region and who your top competitors are. I know Huron and so forth. Let the people listening.
Yeah, in our region, I mean, we've got ourselves, Aberdeen, Huron, Mitchell, Chamberlain, Millbank was an ad last year, and then Todd County and Cheyenne Eagle Butte. And out of those teams, I think five really solid squads, and then when you throw in the Millbank and the Cheyenne Eagle Butte and the Todd County, you all have a few really good individuals and a couple weight classes. As I think you're right, things get very, very interesting as when you have 5 to 6 solid kids in a weight class, and some of them, even I've looked through and they're a toss-up. I mean, it's definitely an interesting day of wrestling, because you're not really sure in a couple weight classes who could qualify. But most of the time it's, any of those kids who are in the bracket all have a shot.
Okay, well, I don't know. Maybe I'm tooting his horn a little bit too much, but I'm really impressed with Hotchmacher. I have been for a couple of years down at Chamberlain, the heavyweight. He's been putting stuff on about his lifting, and I'm going, oh my, he's huge. I don't know how he's going to stay under 285 if he keeps growing. Now, I just want to ask other heavyweights in the region if there's anybody that'll give him a chance there, give him a good match.
We really haven't seen Hutmacher since the Rapid invite. I mean, we don't run into Chamberlain at all outside of there, which is kind of crazy being geographically we're really close to each other. But like I said, we don't see him. The Johnson kid from Aberdeen is a really big, strong kid who, I think could give anybody fits. Our heavyweight Price Dyke has, been really on as of late and, is moving and being fairly athletic. But, like you said, I mean, Hutmacher is a special breed who, I don't know. He's pretty athletic. One of the best heavyweights I've seen in a pretty long time since about Riley Reef.
That's what I was thinking too. And people don't know this out there, but Riley Reef didn't wrestle his senior year either. That's a lot of people out there in Parkston. That he was playing football in Iowa and they told him not to wrestle. And so he didn't. So I kind of know the background there a little bit, but no, he's
broke his hand during football, and then they told him, if you want a scholarship, you're going to have your surgery and take care of that hand, and you won't wrestle.
Yep.
Which the team amazing. That was also in a hunt for a state title was fairly interesting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, how about down there? Let's talk a little bit about actually the wrestling season when it's over. You guys both helping after the wrestling season in the spring. Tell me what both your roles are with USA Wrestling a little bit. I'll start with you, Ray.
Well, I'm the junior director now. Chisholm Fink is our state chairman. So he's kind of heading things up statewide and especially on the eastern side of the state. Here towards the end of the season, I guess my main focus right now for that part is to get kids recruit and get kids interested in the junior dual team, which is coming up in June down in Tulsa. The delay on that right now is basically on the event website because we can't get a real good itinerary set up to get out to the kids yet until we know exactly what that schedule is going to be. But I think the dates for that are June 19th through the 23rd or something like that down in Tulsa. So I've been working trying to get that organized, and then of course Fargo. But in the meantime, this spring, honestly, I might just kind of take a little bit of time for myself before I get into that. I'll still do the freestyle club and the freestyle practices down here. And
how does it work for getting on your dual team? Do you recruit and then people contact you, or is there a deadline or anything like that?
It's actually pretty open, but we do expect him to wrestle in the state freestyle tournament in May, or wrestle in Northern Plains regional at the end of May. So that's something that we do ask them to do, but right now it's pretty wide open. We've had some pretty good teams in the past. Last couple of years we've had to rely on some younger guys, some cadets and stuff, and that's made it kind of difficult. But as those kids are growing up now into the junior age group, we should be able to put together a pretty good squad for that. Fargo's coming up then after that, and that's pretty wide open for anybody that wants to go. We've had some really good kids go in the past, and they found out what they're made of, and they come back, and they usually those are the kind of guys that end up dominating the high school season. And Sean's got a few of those guys on his squad, so it's something that the proof is in the pudding there for those guys that put in that extra time in the off season. And I'm trying to get that across to my guys, the Hot Springs kids. They kind of they're all sport athletes, whatever season it is. That's what they're doing, and I'm all for that. But at the same time, I'm trying to get the point across where if they want to get better at wrestling, they got to get on the mat somehow. And they can't let the style dictate whether or not they're going to do that. There's kind of a little bit of a fear in freestyle out there. And with the new rules, or I guess they're not new, they're a couple years old now. With the new rules, I think that some of those walls can be broken down. So adding the freestyle to the state AAU and region AAU series, I hope that's a plus. I think we're going to see some more numbers come out, get it exposed a little bit more, and so hopefully that kind of gets some more kids interested in it.
Mm-hmm. Now, because pretty much the folk style has been going on for the kids wrestling, uh, and there is a state folk style tournament coming up, AAU wise. When does the freestyle start in your state? When do you start seeing some of the freestyle tournaments?
We'll see. I'll have mine probably right after Easter. I usually put on a 3-style Ironman tournament. East River, usually they try mostly after AAU's over is when we'll see those. But with the cadets and juniors wrestling freestyle at this AAU series, regional and state, I think you'll see a little bit more kids get started early. I'll probably, I don't know when I'll start my freestyle workouts for the kids, the open rooms and such. Like I said, I kind of like to take a couple of weeks off and see what I got for kids that want to do a little extra in the spring and summer before I get too involved.
Okay. In Pierre, you guys got the great big kids club. How much do you help with that over there? And I've seen them in Mobridge had a little tournament this last weekend. They're all over the place. I know they travel a lot, but tell me a little bit about what's happening with the kids program and everything in Pierre.
With our kids program, like I said, we've got a lot of numbers, which means we also have a lot of parents and bodies who, ultimately like to help. And pretty much I hold a position on the board and give my input, but, we have enough people who've been, doing and running that club for a really long time. You kind of stay out of their way and help when you need to. So, I pretty much then, in the off season, just help them get those, we run 4 private camps here in town, for our athletes, and I help get those all set up. And I get the luxury then of, when I'm done with high school season, I get to be a dad for my own kid for a while and, trust his AAU coaches and, let them coach or USA coaches or whatever he wants to do. And it's pretty nice every now and then to just sit back and be dad and not have to play coach.
So true. I maybe get a little fishing in the spring too. Yeah. Then so if you have, again, some people out there, you have some helpers in your room. Tell me some of your assistant coaches there in Pierre right now.
Right now we got 3 guys who help in the room, pretty much every day. My head assistant is Travis Heasley. A guy who's in the National Guards. He wrestled for Miller High School, and then wrestled a little bit collegiately as well. I think at Southwest. One of our other assistants who's been with us for a really long time, Chad Urig, gets in the room when he can. 4-time state champ. Sully Buttes High School grad, wrestled for Minnesota West, and then I guess we have 2 others. Dusty Paulson's in there. He's a peer grad. Wrestled at DW. He's in there as much as he can as well when he's not on, other escapades and other things that Dusty likes to do. Those of you that know Dusty know probably what I'm talking about. And then a new guy in the room this year is Matt Thorson. Matt Thorson teaches an elementary class for us. He's a Groton grad and played football at Northern State University. And, he's definitely made his presence known in our room. So I mean, with those guys, they've made work pretty easy this year.
Okay. I tell you what, all the Class A coaches out there, I tell you what, I've watched you coach and you let these guys do a lot. There's some coaches that kind of like micromanage. I've watched you also, these coaches, I see them warming up guys. I see, I don't know kind of your influence on that, but if you had another person that was a head coach that's just starting off, what would you say about getting assistant coaches? And basically training them, or what's kind of you have any philosophy on what you do with your assistant coaches?
My assistant coaches, I pretty much give them free reign. A lot of them, I trust to pretty much do anything and everything that they want to do in the room. So if they want to, show technique, they show technique. We, share emails throughout the day kind of about practice plan and what we think we need to accomplish. Beginning of the year, you just kind of have them take some scouting notes on kids and even, scouting our own kids for what we need to work on. They kind of just fall into their own niche. They all kind of, find what it is that they want need to do and who they want and need to work with and who has their style and best fits their style. And they just kind of take free reign. I don't really micromanage any of those guys. If there's something specifically with a kid or, with a coach that I want them doing more or that I see that they're really good at, I'll make sure and get after those guys and have conversations to where it's like, hey, I think you need to be doing this or that, or working with this guy or that guy, or even just having, some conversations. So it's, just kind of, not only knowing your wrestlers, but knowing your coaching staff and their strengths and their weaknesses, and then just, giving them the free reign to do what it is that they need to do to help you.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to see the dual get back in Class A?
I think the duels would be nice to have back in Class A. Like Ray said, there was, some schematic things that, we didn't necessarily agree with. I think it would be a good thing. I think there's a few more hurdles that, need to be jumped over before we can say, yeah, this is exactly what we want.
Okay. Would you want to have it the same weekend? I know a lot of people, that's kind of one of the biggest questions of wishing you could do it 2 different weekends. Would that make a big difference?
Yeah, I would rather have it 2 different weekends, and I know that's ultimately, probably the biggest hang up is that, for the state to have it, they don't want it on 2 different weekends. They want it on, 1 weekend, and I completely understand their reasoning for that, but I just think that that's an awful lot of wrestling on a lot of kids, and with the schedule, I know other states do it. Other states only crown a dual state champ, and they don't crown an individual tournament state champ. And I just think we've had a pretty good thing going for a while, and I don't know. I'm a tough person who doesn't like to see a ton of change, and if we're going to make change, don't just change to change, but change and make it right, make it perfect if we're going to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I always try to compare North Dakota to South Dakota, but there's so much difference between the two, so it's hard to. We've had great success having the duel in North Dakota, and we really fought for it to be on the same weekend for a long time, and some people tried a few different times over the years to get it on a different weekend. And the big proposal was that they believed that all the wrestlers who don't get to participate would fill the place. But, having the duel the next weekend, wherever they would have it. But give other towns an opportunity. For an example, Aberdeen, are they going to see a state wrestling tournament again? They don't have a facility that can hold both Class A and Class B. They don't have the hotels. And so now that you're combining the two, it's either Rapid City or Sioux Falls. I don't know if anywhere else can handle it. What do you think about that? Is there any other place that could?
Not that I know.
Could Brookings?
No, I don't think the Swift Center is big enough.
Yeah,
be tough. Dakota Dome, and that's it. And then you're talking about no motels at all.
Yeah, that'd be true. Yeah, it's tough. I tell you what, I've tried to get a hotel room in many of this. It could be just Class B in Aberdeen, and I had a hard time getting a hotel room. Right. So if you had both Class A and Class B, I know that just wouldn't work. But no, if you had any big rule changes, now I know you guys both follow wrestling a lot. College wrestling has a couple different rules. Would you ever think of changing any rules if the high school did to go to some of the stuff that college is now doing? I don't know, maybe for an example, the weird one, if you watch enough college wrestling, there's a position where, let's say they're doing the little past the ankles going underneath. If you could hold them in that position, they actually give a takedown in college. I don't, that it's kind of, yep.
I don't know if I like that with high school kids, or like I said, I got a lot of young kids who get themselves in pretty screwy situations, and they're just getting in there, out of fighting for a position and not giving up points. And then, next thing you're going to do is penalize a kid or give up points for them not knowing how to get their hips up or their back or their head up out of a position where they don't think they're giving up a takedown. Something I like to see is, and I don't know, gym space availability is probably the biggest hurdle, but they've gone to the out of bounds, near fall, and pin now. My opinion, why don't you just go all the way and go to the cylinder rule? As long as the shoelace is still in bounds, you're still wrestling and do it right. That's probably the only thing that I would say, adopt from college a little bit more fully, I guess. But I don't know. I think those rules set college apart as a next step, the way they're implemented, where, 4-point near fall and the scramble rule. Yeah, when you're in college, you probably should know how, don't hang out on your back so long and get moving, and try to score points rather than just try to stalemate it. But, I think those rules that they have is what sets them apart.
Sure. How's the out of bounds rule working this year for you guys?
We've got pinned out of bounds. We've given up near falls. We've got near falls. We've got pins. The consistency has gotten better as the season goes. Before Christmas, the consistency was terrible, and the refs will admit it. They know that they had a hard time keeping track of it. But as the years gone on, I've seen it be a little bit more consistently called, and in a lot of cases, they're doing the best they can to watch for the pin and watch for make sure all the criteria are being met for them to still be called in bounds and all that stuff. So I think it's been fairly decently implemented over the last 4-6 weeks of the season.
How about there in Pierre? How's now? I haven't got to enough tournaments in South Dakota, and I almost have to apologize for that. But the ones that I go, I still see all the same old referees. Is there some new blood coming in there? In either place?
I mean, we need a few new guys, and I think there's a couple. But for the most part, you have your old guys who are there week in and week out, and it's good because most of them, and you kind of know what you're going to get. But at the same time, it's when you see the same people over and over, I'm sure they say the same thing about a lot of coaches. Is you kind of wish you get to see a little bit different perspective. I saw a few really good young referees. Soriano's, used to ref out in the hills, and his son does over in Wyoming. I thought he did a spectacular job when he came to East-West duels. Guy that I wrestled with, Brian Carrolls, he's really started to get into reffing, and I think he's went from doing JV matches to a bunch of varsity contracts just inside of a year. And then we get to see when we go to the southeastern corner of the state, Dan Noonan, a younger guy who I actually got to coach against when he was still wrestling. That's how young he is, and I thought he did a great job. So I think we're getting a few young guys. It's just probably not enough. Our old guys that are doing it we probably have a few of them who are T-minus 5 years, and they're not going to be doing it forever. And so we definitely need to get some new guys in there, doing their thing.
Right. Now it's kind of one of the big things that's happening in North Dakota now. We're trying to get a little rollover because we have a few guys that are in their 60s and can't move like they used to. In fact, I joke about one guy. He's about ready to just use his foot for slapping the mat. He can't get down there no more. Yeah, he's pinned, And so we joke about it, but yet it's a kind of a serious matter when you talk about these guys trying to find referees to not only do all the varsity matches, but yet the JV and the duels and different things in different locations. In fact, we have a couple referees out of Bismarck that travel 150 miles on a Tuesday or Thursday night for a duel, or maybe even a Monday. So just one way. And so I know that there's a shortage out there, and I'm hoping that, we can get some of these young guys out there. And I don't know if it's all just paid, just kind of giving back to the sport. I think it helps them, but I don't know.
Well,
how about
it's not
close to Hot Springs?
It's not a bad gig. We paid I don't remember what we just paid our conference officials, but I know that it was a pretty decent amount for one day. So any young guys looking to make a little extra cash on this, it's not a bad gig. Aside from getting yelled at by coaches and fans, which I think hasn't been a real big issue this year, but it's a pretty decent amount to work a 1 day or even a 2-day tournament. They get taken care of pretty good. So young guys, we got. Most of the referees out here in the hills have been around for a while, but some of the younger ones, like Sean said, John Soriano, Colin Fink, are some of the younger ones out here that I've seen. There's a few newer ones that I wouldn't consider young guys, but there's some newer guys that got into reffing. I don't know their name off the top of my head, but I've seen them at some tournaments around the hills and other places that do a pretty good job. I talk to my guys once they graduate. If they don't want to get into coaching because a lot of them don't want to get into coaching for whatever reason. But I say, you enjoyed the sport, you were good at it, why not give yourself a chance to stay around the sport by reffing? One thing I tell them as they graduate is once you walk away from the sport, it's really hard to come back. So to be an official is one way they can kind of stick around it. And if they have kids that come up and want to be part of it, at least they're still involved and not so far removed from it. It's really easy to stay involved with.
Definitely. What would you say the importance is of having that conference tournament for your community, your wrestling club, and all of this stuff, or having home duels, both of you guys, having your events? What does that do for your community or your wrestling team? How about you first, Ray? I know it's important to have those, just having your
own. We didn't have much at home. We had Philip at home a couple weeks ago. That was our only home duel. And they kind of stomped on us because they caught us right after we got bit with our injury and illness bug. So we only had maybe 7 of our regular varsity guys in the lineup. And I don't know if it would have made much of a difference. They're pretty tough. But we have our big tournament right before Christmas, and that's a big deal. Several teams stay in the motel rooms. There's some pretty good community excitement for it. The Black Hills Conference, like I said, we had the gym packed. I mean, I was really surprised at how many people showed up for that, and there was a lot of excitement. So as far as us to showcase our program, yeah, it's very important, because otherwise we're on the road every weekend, every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We're out of town wrestling, and unless they travel along with us behind the bus to go watch us, they don't get a chance to see us. So it's important for these kids to wrestle at home in front of their home fans, and it's important to them that their classmates, their peers, their neighbors, their friends, or relatives get a chance to come see them at least those 3 times that we were at home this year.
How about in Pierre?
Well, we don't have a conference tournament anymore. We used to, but then kind of all of us were fairly sick of seeing each other every weekend, and then having to do it the week before regions, and then half of us, go to regions and, redraw the bracket and do it again. So a few years ago, can't remember how many now, we got rid of our conference tournament, and it's just solely based on our duels. And so the majority of what we have is individual duels, which, gives us that, at home weigh-in. So we got in front of our home crowd about 4 times this year, which is really nice. Our last duel that we had in Pierre, was against Harrisburg, and it was, for the conference title. They were undefeated in conference duels, and we had lost that first duel of the year against Watertown. So, a win for us meant a share of the conference title, and a win for them meant an outright conference title that they could have. They brought an absolute great crowd for coming, with the weather that they had, and, traveling that far on a Friday night. And we really pumped it up in school, and, made sure that our guys were out. And it was probably the best student section that I've seen us have in a really long time, which is interesting. And I mean, our crowd there, with the atmosphere and the number of people there, probably rivaled a basketball game with attendance, which is something to say in Pierre, because our basketball games year in and year out, I mean, they're packed to the brim. So we had great crowds this year, great atmosphere. Our youth club did a great job also of sending out emails and, making sure those little guys got there to see the excitement, and our parents were, getting family and everybody involved. And so, I saw probably some people at duels this year that I haven't necessarily probably ever seen at a duel. And it was just, it was the recruiting of everybody. We just, did a really good job putting on social media, Facebook, Twitter, parents sharing everything, creating events, and just really letting the public know, when and where our duels were, and trying to hype them up.
Mm-hmm. How's the media been? Have you guys got a lot of news into your area? Do the cameras come into your room every once in a while? How about in Pierre there for sure?
No, nobody travels to Pierre for any sort of media, anything. We're lucky if we can get our newspaper in our room.
It's kind of sad, actually. I know Mitchell always has stuff going on, part of their newspaper. Sort of, it's one in fact, I'll hop on their newspaper and get information now and then. Yankton does a good job getting some stuff out through their stuff, and then I'll see some stuff in Brookings and out of Aberdeen every once in a while. But I honestly, I don't see Kello Land a lot of times put wrestling on. So I'm hoping that some of these media places start picking up some more wrestling. Come state tournament, they usually do an okay job. I know getting those people there. If you had a chance, what would you do to get more people? Yeah, down. Let's say I know Hot Springs is a little bit better, different situation, but how does Rapid City do for media down that way? Let's go that way first, I guess.
I've seen them around. They had cameras at Rapid City tournament. The TV news did. They had some at where was it? I saw them at Custer. They had a few people there being there. Since then, it's been few and far between. Our local newspaper has gone through kind of a changeover, kind of a long story, but Trey Noctigo, one of our old wrestlers from last year's dad, used to be the publisher of the Hot Springs Star, and he went and is now the publisher of the Fall River County Herald or Register or something like that. But he does a pretty good job for us, and he's close to wrestling as a wrestling dad and stuff, so he does the best he can with keeping good stories and pictures and such. The new publishers of the Star, I've never met the guy. I think he might have been there Saturday because there was somebody I didn't know there with the camera taking a lot of pictures. So it's tough. We like Sean says, he uses social media a lot, and that's really what we rely on. I post our results to our Hot Springs Booster Club's website or Facebook page. I put them out there on our Facebook page and try to keep up on Twitter as much as possible. And that's, in a sense, we kind of create our own media that way. And I'm not so good with doing the Facebook Live or videoing or anything like that, but we're even taking pictures. But I always tell parents if they have pictures to share and input to share on the Facebook groups and on their Facebook pages, to go for it, because that's probably the best coverage we get is what we do for ourselves.
Okay. Yeah, I know I saw quite a bit coming out. I know Pierre every once in a while. I don't know which mother I get, but she'll put some stuff on there on Facebook every now and then. But have you gone Facebook Live or anything besides in your duels or anything that way, gone live?
We do go live. Our athletic director, Brian Mosier, he after Christmas, I think we set up, we were one of the first schools to do NFHS in South Dakota. And, NFHS started by just doing like hockey, or not hockey, but maybe it's field hockey, soccer, basketball games, things like that. And we were one of the first to do a live wrestling match on NFHS. And so, link through our school page, we're live there. We have a couple comical commentators, a couple other administrators and former head coaches in our district that give quite the color commentary to our duels. So if you're not from Pierre, it's probably not the color commentary you're going to want to listen to. But if you're a Pierre fan, or just kind of a wrestling guru, it's definitely fun to listen to. Those are all archived. On top of that, Paul Turman runs a blog for us. So when we go to tournaments, things like that, he takes a lot of pictures, has a blog, and our blog, I don't even know how many hits it has. He kind of sends me an update, but probably more hits on there than our hometown newspaper sells papers. So that's pretty big for us. Like I said, and then, we got a Twitter account, we got a Facebook account. We've never done Facebook Live, but, our live stuff has all been through NFHS. And unfortunately it's just our home stuff. It's nothing away, but we do what we can.
Definitely. No, anything to promote the sport. You guys do a great job. No, anything else that you guys want to bring up tonight? All I know is that I know we got a lot of time taken up for the season, and you guys are coming down to the last weeks. I hope you guys stay healthy. Anything else you guys want to bring up about wrestling that's happening with your communities?
Yeah, I'll bring up. We just finished with our middle school state tournament. We have a couple people in our community, specifically Paul Turman, who's really put headway on that, and trying to model what North Dakota is. ultimately they're kind of the state that we put the model on, and really tried to pump that up. And I think it's and it's an event that grew a ton. Still has some kinks to be worked out, but is definitely a nice thing for us to showcase those middle school kids who aren't necessarily your varsity caliber kids, but still put in the work day in and day out, and deserve that recognition, and to try to vie for their state title as well. It was a fun event. We went from like 210 kids to 305 just in a year's time.
How many did you say?
I missed it. We had about 305.
Okay.
Kids compete at it with the different weight classes. And, I saw some amazing wrestling this weekend from some middle school kids, that I was definitely impressed with. And, I think the more kids that we can keep getting to that and at that, the better off that we're going to be, and keep pumping that event up. And I think all the other coaches who were there could say the same thing. And, and with that, we also we went out and got some of the best refs in the state as well to be there. So they had quality reffing along with, quality competition as well. So, each and every single kid who even placed there this last weekend is something to be proud of.
Did you highlight the finals or do anything different that way?
No, we really didn't, and that's something we could probably continue to work on as it continues to grow and continues to work through. But when we had some brackets were 16-man brackets, we had other brackets were 32-man brackets, and it was kind of an all-comers thing, and so just really quite not sure logistically on a way to highlight those finals matches yet, but definitely something we're working on in the future.
Yeah, just the vibe of those, face-offs for some reason, I know brings the fans back all the time, and the wrestlers look forward to it. We've had several tournaments where we brought down the lights, even the middle school, and you name it, and have that face-off, and it's funny how you see the kids just get all jacked up it's still middle school, but it's their life, it's their highlight at that point. Definitely. So I'm hoping you guys keep advancing and doing well with that. That's good. Very, very happy for you doing that. It's good. How about you, Ray? You got anything going on big down there?
Well, that's a great event in Pierre, and I wish we had the numbers to go. What hampers us the most is we run on the quarter system. So other than the kids I've been using on varsity, we lost all our middle school kids back in December. So Bo and I have been talking about this a little bit. I understand the importance of the quarter system, but honestly, and to be candid, I might torque some people off, but I'm ready to see it go. I think it hamstrings us, not just in terms of not being able to send a kid to Pierre or something like that if they want to, but they start in the middle of October. By the time December's around, they're gone, and that we lost 20 kids in December because middle school season was over, and that's a room full, and that's a pretty good pool of other 7th and 8th graders we might be able to pull up and wrestle in some JV events and work on their experience for high school, and I think that's something that needs to be looked at. I don't know what avenue to go from there. Our Black Hills ADs and everyone are still pretty stuck on holding that so that they can do wrestling in the fall and basketball right after Christmas and whatever and so on. And I understand that. I think that's good that they get a chance to do all those things. But being a wrestling guy, I honestly don't like it. But that's just where we're at right now. But otherwise,
Yep.
Say that again.
We have that same issue in North Dakota. We have that the middle school season starts in early October, and then when Christmas hits, a lot of them are gone. And honestly, I would say that 3/4 of them are not playing basketball. There might be a few, and it kind of handcuffs them, and they would lose a couple months of mat time, which would be very valuable.
Yeah, and even to get them back for districts, region, and state here in a couple of weeks. They're so far out of it and on into basketball, and then track starts, and like I said, when you walk away from wrestling, when you're done with it, when you walk away when your season's over and you go do something else, it's hard to get them back in that way too. So I'm just looking forward to an exciting couple of weeks of regions and state, and I kind of challenged my guys today, and I said my job right now is to make this week the toughest week on you in the room during the season, because we need you to step up, and part of that's what makes it fun. And I told him, if I say something that makes you mad, don't take it personal. Channel it into your wrestling, and let's see what happens, because we had a pretty good team this year, and we just let some things slip away because of some of the unfortunate things that teams go through when they don't have the numbers to pull through some of that. So I'm really excited to see what we can do once we finally get all of our guys on the mat and see what happens.
Yeah, looking into your region, I see both Pierre, no, not Pierre. I was going to say Fort Pierre used to be on top, but now you got Mobridge and Phillip. And I'm going to put you on a limb here. What order would you see them placing in your tournament? Do you see them 1, 2, and which order, Phillip or Mobridge?
Oh boy, I don't know. I'd have to lean towards Phillip a little bit, but I know Mobridge has some hammers up there too. So I hope we can take a few notches out of both of them. But we got to bring our A game to do that too.
Yeah, I was looking at those results going back to the Aberdeen tournament, the Lee Wolf, and Mobridge had a few guys down at that tournament. I expected them actually a few guys more to step up, but I'm going, what the world? They were not even there. So they kind of went through their sickness bug, and I was going to get a hold of their coach and see if everybody's healthy coming into the regions too. When do you guys solidify your seedings down in Pierre for your region tournament?
I think they're supposed to be in. I don't know. I put mine in on Monday. I wasn't going to wait for a deadline. I think ours have to be in by Thursday and solidified by then and Thursday, and then they kind of work themselves through on Friday through just kind of putting the brackets out, or not brackets, but the seeds out, and seeing if there's any discrepancy or there's anything missed and overlooked there, and and then really nothing's finalized until after our coaches meeting on Saturday morning.
Okay, and where are you headed for your regions?
We got to go to Eagle Butte for our regions this year.
Okay, I got some great stories from there. Oh, I tell you what. My first year coaching in Mobridge, we actually had rocks thrown at us at the bus when we brought our wrestlers into town. I was going, whoa! I don't know, it's a little crazy. It's 20-some years ago already, but no, that should be good, interesting, because Eagle Butte, I don't know, I haven't got to talk to their coach and I haven't got to see him wrestle. I did see some LNI results, but you never know. Are they gonna fill 8 to 10 weight classes or not out of Eagle Butte? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't think they'll fill probably every weight class. But the kids they have normally wrestle pretty hard. We haven't, had a chance to see them at all. It was about 7 years ago, I think, since we've had regions there. And last time they hosted, they did a phenomenal job hosting and showcasing and, definitely making sure that the tournament was done right. So just kind of looking forward to that again.
Well, that's good. The coach is from Faith originally. And so have a little faith that he does well there. Definitely. No, that's good. Every community, if they can have a tournament, does help their team for the future. So, no, I got about you guys go to Rapid City for Region 4. I'm trying to think of anything else that I can think of.
Yeah, we have the combined region at Rapid City Stevens. It's usually a pretty good show when we get a chance to put them on together. So we're actually the Class B hosts. So we're trying to organize some volunteers and helpers to get up there to help them out with things. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's a great atmosphere to have that with. When it's in the ice arena, it's almost like a state tournament atmosphere. But with being at Stevens, it's still going to be a great atmosphere to wrestle under. And like I said, if we can find a way to get over half our guys, I told him, I said, I got to be honest with you. If we can get 7+ guys there out of the crew that we have this year with some of our youth and inexperience, I'd be tickled pink to have that many go to Sioux Falls with us.
Okay. How do you guys plan your week going to the state tournament, having to travel? I know Pierre's not quite as far, but do you guys take off Thursday? You guys practice halfway, or Hot Springs? You line up a way to go, or do you just get there and practice, or what do you guys do? Both of you guys.
For state?
Yep, for state.
Yeah, for state, we'll practice. We'll try to keep things as normal as possible. We'll leave Thursday morning sometime and work out when we get there. Hopefully the weather cooperates so that we can go. Can stay around till Thursday. Like to keep the kids home as much as possible till it's time to go. It was either last year or 2 years ago. I think we ended up having to leave a day early because of the weather moving in, and try to keep them occupied for that extra night and day is tough sometimes. So that's a perfect situation, is to travel on Thursday and then get settled into the motel and get a good workout in on Thursday, and maybe play a couple of pretty good tournaments of spike ball or something and let her rip on Friday.
Okay. How about Pierre? How do you guys handle it?
We'll typically leave Thursday morning, get kids out of school. We have kind of a little send off with our student body, nothing big. Kind of the band plays, the parents, give us these little goodie bags to get on the bus and to go with. We just kind of get on the bus and hunker down and go back to sleep and ride all the way there. Whether it's in Sioux Falls or in Rapid, it's pretty much the same distance for us. So when we get there, a lot of the times we'll go to Shields and we'll go buy a new pair of socks. Our kids are pretty fun about that. They think nothing's cooler or more comfortable than a brand new fresh pair of socks. So we always stop at Shields and get
position. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Then we'll go check into our hotel and, wait until we can get in, and we'll, practice in the arena, get our stuff done there, as kind of as early as possible. And then, make sure our weight's right and hunker down for the night.
Yep. It's usually what it is. The last time you got to think about people making weight, usually that Friday night going, oh, you got to make weight Saturday yet, But weight allowance, have you had to worry about it the last few years? Any of the weights, or has it been pretty good?
No, really haven't done much. Weight's been pretty good. I don't think kids are, really cutting, really hard or anything like that. So, weight's just kind of been what it is. If we have to make half our weigh-ins at that weight, so by the time you've gotten about half those in and state tournament rolls around, it's just, pretty much second nature to get it done.
I like that rule that South Dakota has. We have weight descent, but so it really somebody could be close, but you could have no matches there and just get there at the end of the year and be at that weight. So it's kind of frustrating as a fan a little bit. All of a sudden somebody jumps down a weight class who hasn't wrestled there all year. But, I don't know. There's a lot of parents that I guarantee don't like that part. I wish we did have the rule of half, but we'll see how it goes. I think rules wise, I talked to a few coaches. We don't have any major suggestions up here either for major rule changes. So we'll have to see how it goes, but I guess I'm going to let you guys go. If you guys got anything last to say, I know it's been a good year for both you guys, and I'm hoping it stays that way. Stay healthy and guys have a great region tournament this weekend. Anything else yet? And either one of you? No, good to go. Okay, well, I appreciate it. You guys coming on again. And I owe you guys both a T-shirt still. I don't think I even mailed them out. I've got my list here, but I will run into you guys and get you guys some stuff. I appreciate it. But anything you guys ever need for wrestling, get a hold of me. Again, just want to say, we'll do this again sometime in the future. I'll have probably one or two more episodes this year, kind of finalize stuff, and then after that, we'll see what happens next year. But guys, you guys have a good night, and we'll talk to you soon. Again, this is John Gums, Dakota Grappler. We're going to call it a night. Let's go watch some wrestling this weekend and have some fun. Guys, see you later.